Alright, hello everybody. We're back with another tutorial here on make a model for an airplane and X-plane. That was a mouthful. But yeah, so today what we're going to be doing, as said in the last video, is making the flaps and the slats and ailerons and all that good stuff on the wing. Um, this actually takes a fair amount of time, but we're going to do it together. So yeah, first things first, we're going to hop into the top-down view, wide frame mode, and as you can see, we kind of have our layout of flaps here, so we're going to start with that. Select the wing object, go into edit mode with hitting tab. Select your knife tool with K, and we're just going to draw a straight line to here and then over to there, and then back. This will get us our basic shape for the flaps, and we can start to screw around with the mesh. Make sure you have reference images on your computer somewhere so you can take a look at them. And finish the cut by hitting enter. That'll give you your line there. So that's just on the top of the wing. We're actually going to need to go under the wing and do the same thing again. So if you want to go under the airplane, you hit Control 7. You get the opposite view. Back into wide frame mode we go. Now this has to be very accurate, so what we're going to do here is kind of zoom in and then do the same thing again. And enter. So that's our flap shape there. Now keep in mind that the flaps actually go well into the wing and then kind of round out. That'll be a step we do later on, but that's just to get the basic shape. What we can do from here is separate these faces into its own object. So we can go into the edge selector, select all these faces, or sorry, I meant face select. There, so we have our faces selected, and then we can press P and hit by selection. There we go. And notice I still have my mirror modifier on, so whatever I do on the left automatically goes to the right. And we can get out of edit mode and we can go back into object mode. As you can see, we have our flap here. That's its own thing. Now we're going to have to patch that up a bit. Back into wide frame, we can select all these vertices and press F. And what that does is it makes a face. Same thing on this side and on the front. Now we have a solid object with no inside parts. Okay, now comes the fun part. We're gonna have to build inside of this, and actually we'll do that edit mode, and we'll take the vertices on the edges here, and we'll bring them out and kind of just curl them in ourselves. We're gonna have to do this all manually. So side view, press B, or you can do whatever you want to select your vertices. Make sure you got the ones you want. Duplicate them with Shift D. And then we don't know how far this goes in actually in the A330, but we can make a guess by looking at pictures. So that's full flaps there, so we can kind of suggest that we could add pretty much double the length of it. So, oops, what did I do? So this is the length we have here. I would say about there. Okay, now next part's really easy. What we have to do is just kind of join the faces together. I'm going to press C so I can make a easier selection. There we go. The flap shape is starting to come along. Back into edit mode we go. I'm going to make a loop cut here. Loop cut there. I'm going to delete these top faces I just made. Accent faces. And then make those faces again, because what we're doing is adding a line in between here so we can make more loop. Alright, so nothing changed right there besides the fact that we made more mesh. Back into edit mode we go. We're going to keep adding loop cuts so we can kind of round out this edge. It'll happen in a second. We just need more mesh first. Okay, we might actually not need to delete these faces this time. I think we'll be good. Okay. Now comes the fun part. We grab the very inside edges of the flaps. Then into the front view. Now, this isn't really going to work very well. So we might have to do this manually for each vertice. So select the two on the edges and we'll kind of bring them down a bit. Actually, might need to make a bit of a That's just S and Z. Kind of shape out that flap. Okay, now that looks pretty good so far. It's not completely accurate to where the 330 should be, but if you wanted to edit your angle of attack sort of and make the bottom kind of rise up, what you can do is grab each one of these faces or vertices here and just kind of drag them up a little bit until you get that kind of curve to your flap. Sort of like that. All right, now I'm going to put this back into the wing. It's not going to be exact, which is kind of what we want because, I mean, flaps don't go exactly into the wing every single time. But we can make it pretty close. Like that. That's good. Now that's a flap there that I'm pretty happy with. We're going to go ahead and make the other ones now. Same steps as before. Only difference this time is that shape is different and the longer flap. Now on the A330, there is kind of a crack in between the two flaps. There's a blank space in there. We're gonna have to mark that, which we can do very easily. Now the thing with this airplane is that actually with this diagram it's a little different. I think this here is actually a spoiler, so what we're going to do is use the inside line. There we go. Back to the under view. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to make this its own object. And then we have to get rid of these faces because that's the blank spot. And actually this flap got a little up. It's just because of the loop cuts. There's not a face here to separate them, so it's making a round. That doesn't seem to work either. It's just the angle that this, because this part's at a different angle, so it just wants to kind of break through the mesh. You'll have to play with this a couple times to get it right. Actually, what I think I'm going to do in this case is duplicate this vertex and bring it over. Now we can make a face there. Okay, that's looking good. There, okay, that flap's done. far as I'm aware. There seem to be some missing here. Probably just because we changed the wing profile a bit. Right, so this flap now, we need to do the same thing as the other one. This one's easier because there's only 4 vertices here. And we can say that this is probably about this far from the actual edge of the flap that we just. It goes around to the spoilers. And then we're just making faces again. Now this one should have a much easier loop cut. Yeah, okay, right across, that's good. Now we can just go right into the rounding. And just like that, you have your flaps. So far, so good, if I may say so. You get a drink of water. Alright, next thing we're going to tackle is the aileron, which is quite huge on the A330. So you can see it in our diagram here. Not sure if this is exact, but we're going to have a look at it in some reference images. The angle seems to be pretty good, so I guess we'll stick with it. Same thing for the ailerons, you know, same old knife tool cut. And press enter. Okay. P and then selection. As its own object. And what we can do is, since our origin is over here, we can right click and hit set origin to geometry. Oh, actually, no, you know what? It's there because it's in the mirror modifier. We'll have to do that when we're done. Yeah, okay, same thing with the aileron here. And actually, I don't know how I feel about that. Apparently that's right. Yeah, okay. Good. Face. Another face. duplicate that. Bring it just barely this way because the aileron is pretty stationary to where it rotates. Now this vertex here we're gonna have to bring in a bit just because it's on an angle. Good. And then same thing for these, just round them up. There, that's a flap. Or aileron, sorry. Now, these might look a little rough on the edges. What we can do is just smooth it off. Right click smooth. Make sure it's all good. All right, and that's pretty much our wing objects there. Yeah, actually. Look at it from the side view. I think that looks like an A330 to me. That looks pretty good. Okay, next step. What are we gonna do now? Do the flap or the spoilers? Yes, spoilers. Spoilers are pretty simple. All we want to do here is go from where the flaps ended. Well, actually, I don't need to go on the bottom. I don't know what I'm doing there. So yeah, so all we're gonna do here is just this top part for the spoilers, and then we're gonna make it its own object. And then from there, what we're gonna do is, let's see, we're gonna have to duplicate it. Edit mode, select the whole thing, and Shift D. This is where it gets kind of tricky. It needs to go right over the flap. So Gonna have to reshape it a little bit or rotate it. I'm gonna delete these last couple vertices. Actually, that might not have been a good idea. Kind of just move them up a little. Actually, the best way to do this would probably be in the side. Now we are gonna have a triangle here, just because we were up one vertice on this side. Fine. It look weird, but might be fine too. Who knows? We'll know in a sec. Okay, so that's our spoiler, speed brake, whatever you want to call it. Now, just to get a reference, what we can do is put a our cursor right in the middle. And then we can kind of flip it up. Find that spot. I can't find the spot. Something like that. Pretty good. Yep, okay, that looks good to me. Next thing we're gonna do is the other little spoiler. Okay. Inspect it. Looks good-ish. Good for this tutorial. Now everything from the left is on the right. Good to me. Now, the little cones under the wings. So I put an object there where that one is. Lines up with this one. Okay, that's good. Now I need to find some pictures of that. Alright, there's a good picture. Also a good picture. So what we're gonna do here is let's see. We'll start from the top down view, get the basic shape in, then we can start rounding it out. Be nice to know how far through the wing it goes. Okay, that's a good picture. So the one we're doing now is just on the outside of the engine. Goes just about halfway through the wing, so pretty much there. Adds yeah. Our side view might help. But there. Just kind of change the fatness with your loop cut. Alright, that looks good, I think. And what we can do here is loop cut right down the center. And start rounding these edges off. Needs to go down first. Kind of like that. Diagram looks quite wrong. Bring it all down a bit. And you kind of just slide the mesh up into the wing a little bit. Sort of like that. Now with these side vertices we have here, we can kind of just bring them all up a bit. Make some more loop cuts. Now that'll start to round it out. We can do the same thing for the top, just a little, not as much though. What we're gonna do is make some more mesh on the edges. Even roll this up a little more. Sort of like this. Have all those face or vertices. Bring them down a bit. You can even stretch them out. Keep repeating that. Down and out. Start to get your shape. I'll be fixing this up quite a bit, but that's just the basics on how to make your wing shape. Flaps, ailerons, stuff like that. I'll be back in the next video with some engine modeling, and I'll finish up these before I start the next video.